today. Today was
Una cosita rápido.
nationalism, a movement that took place during those days after the, or during the uh, Napoleon era and the revolution, industrial revolution. Everything took place almost at the same time. Okay, so and because after Napoleon's intervened, he re redraw the map of Europe. And after Prussia, Britain, and other countries then defeat Napoleon and send him to the Caribbean, they organized the Vienna Congress. Remember the Vienna Congress? And they tried to reorganize the whole European continent. But some countries, they didn't like the way it was reorganized. So this nationalism came up and they wanted to organize the country on their own. So this, as I said, this national feelings appear in this era. So the first two countries that tried to reorganize and try to organize all this movement was German and Italy. Okay, so they unify and they organized and they became one country and what they are right now, because they were all separated in different kingdoms. They were separated in different kingdoms and they reorganized and unified and they became one country. So these were the first one, Germany, and Italy. Okay. So right now I'm gonna show you the video, and after that we're going to talk about the PowerPoint that I have over here. Organized for you guys. Let me see. Okay. Okay. I did this. Let me show you the video that I have for you guys. First, let's talk about the unification of Italy. I think the first one is this one. No, this one, German. This is about Germany. Let's watch this one.
Okay, today we're going to be talking about the unification of Germany. So let's look at the big ideas. The first one is explain the rise of the nation states in Germany. The second is explain how Bismarck unified Germany. And the third is identify the causes and consequences of major political revolutions. So first thing we need to know about Germany is that at this time there's really no Germany. What we have are German-speaking people live in these very small and sometimes medium-sized states. They're kind of separated. They each govern themselves, they run themselves, but all the people, for the most part in them, speak German. Along with those states, there's also Prussia, which is the biggest of them, and parts of Austria as well. Between 1806 and 1812, Napoleon, as we've talked about, annexes, meaning he takes, lands along the Rhine River. The Rhine is a river in the west of Germany, and basically dissolves the Holy Roman Empire. The Holy Roman Empire at this time really was the combination of all those German states. And what happens in 1815 at the Congress of Vienna is the German Confederation, shown here, is created. So as you can see, these are all the little German states. We have small, and then you have Prussia, which is by far the biggest of the German states. Fast forward about 50 years, and in 1862, King William I, he's the king of Prussia, makes this man here, Otto von Bismarck, the prime minister of Prussia. And Bismarck is going to give a speech in which he declares Prussia needs to build up its forces based on blood and iron, essentially warfare and industrializing the country. And so his first move is to build up the Prussian army. Only problem is the legislature in Prussia won't pay for this, so he uses money that was supposed to go to other places to build up the Prussian army. And he wants to pursue what we would call an aggressive foreign policy, meaning he is going to start a few wars in order to expand the German Empire. These wars are going to be with Denmark first, then Austria, and then France. So, in 1864, Austria and Prussia actually kind of become allies, and they're going to go to war with Denmark and seize the provinces of Schleswig and Holstein, which are located just north of Germany. And it's a very brief war, and Schleswig and Holstein are liberated, as you would say, by Austria and Germany. Austria would control Holstein, and Prussia would control Schleswig. But this is only the start. What happens is a few years later, Bismarck is going to invent some kind of excuse to invade Austria. The war only lasts 7 weeks, and the Austrians are defeated by the Prussians. So he used the Prussians to help him take provinces, then he turns against them. The next thing that's going to happen is in 1870, a rivalry has grown between Prussia and France, in part because Napoleon III, who's in charge of France at the time, is angered by Prussia taking or beating Austria. And there's also the sentiments that go all the way back to Napoleon in the early 1800s, when Napoleon had marched in through Germany, taken German lands, occupied German lands. So the Germans still remember that. And so what happens is the Franco-Prussian War ensues. And really, Prussia is just too strong. Not only are they too strong, but they're also supported by armies from some of the other smaller German states. And along with that, France is just poorly organized. They don't have enough supplies for their troops, and is really humiliated in defeat by the Prussians. So what we are left with is, after the defeat of France, princes from some of the southern and northern German states urge William to take the title of Kaiser, or Emperor. And really, in January of 1871, the German Empire is founded. And the leader of the German Empire now is the Kaiser, Kaiser William, or Wilhelm, as you'll hear him called. And from there, Otto von Bismarck writes a new constitution, or leads the writing of a new constitution, and along with the Kaiser himself as prime minister, there are also a two-house legislature that's created. The upper house is the Bundesrat, and the leaders of the Bundesrat are appointed by the people in the Bundesrat are appointed by the leaders of the German states. The other part of the legislature is the Reichstag, and people elected to the Reichstag are chosen by voting males in the German Empire. So by 1871, Bismarck had united Germany, had united the German states, and Prussia was kind of leading the way here. And you can see here pictured the extent of the German Empire at this time. So, review the big ideas really quickly. Explain the rise of nation states in Germany. Explain how Bismarck unified Germany. And identify the causes and consequences of major political revolutions.
And now let's watch the other that I talked about. I told you there were two countries. The first one was Italy and then Germany. But right now we watch only Germany. Now let's watch Italy.
Since the fall of Rome, the Italian peninsula was divided among a lot of independent states. Besides the rough geographic position, there was some debate as to whether they really shared a similar culture. Nevertheless, there were no real calls for unification. That is, until Napoleon came along. When he invaded Italy, he created the Kingdom of Italy in the north, harking back to the old constituent kingdom of the Holy Roman Empire. However, when he was defeated, Italy reverted back to independent state. Simply put, there was the ultra-conservative Bourbon-controlled Kingdom of Naples in the south, the theocratic papal states in the center, the Austrian Empire directly controlled the northeast and had client states in the center, Parma, Tuscany, and Modena, so the only genuinely independent state was the Kingdom of Sardinia, aka Piedmont, in the northwest. And that's how it was until the revolutions of 1848 swept across Europe. In Milan and Venice, revolutionaries rose up against the Austrians, Sicilians fought for independence from Naples, and in Rome they declared a republic. The Roman Republic was led by Giuseppe Mazzini, who founded a revolutionary group, the Young Italians, and had been launching insurrections for years. However, within a short space of time, the rebellions had been crushed. Austrians reconquered the northeast, the Bourbon Neapolitans crushed the Sicilians, and French troops were sent into Rome to reinstate the Pope, and they remained in the city for some time. This, the First Italian War of Independence, therefore failed, but it demonstrated that the new king of Sardinia, Victor Emmanuel II, would lead the unification movement, but he desperately needed a powerful ally. So in the 1850s, with his Prime Minister Cavour, Victor Emmanuel decided to send troops to Crimea to fight the Russians alongside the British and French in hopes of gaining an ally. Eventually, Napoleon III came to their aid. Besides looking to improve his prestige and weakening the Austrian Empire, he had nearly been killed by an Italian revolutionary in 1858, so he hoped to curb this activity. The Franco-Piedmont alliance against Austria was cemented when Victor Emmanuel offered to cede Nice and Savoy to France in exchange for their support. They attacked Austria in April 1858, starting the Second War of Italian Independence. Together with the Central Italian states who had united and ousted their leaders, they emerged victorious against the Austrians within just a few months. However, Victor Emmanuel and Cavour were angered with the French for making peace with the Austrians before they got all they wanted. Nevertheless, Lombardy was annexed, and the Central States then voted suspiciously overwhelmingly in favour of joining Piedmont. Shortly afterwards, the Sicilian revolutionary Francesco Crispi persuaded Giuseppe Garibaldi to launch an invasion of Sicily. Garibaldi was a famed revolutionary who had fought around the world, so he was able to recruit 1,000 volunteers, the Red Shirts, and gain limited support from the British. He set sail for Sicily in mid-1860, and once he landed, with the help of some local recruits, fought his way north. He eventually entered Naples in September, welcomed by crowds, and hoped to push on to Rome. However, Victor Emmanuel, who had just defeated papal states and annexed Umbria, prevented him from doing so because French troops were still stationed in the city. So Garibaldi handed over his southern conquests to Victor Emmanuel, and the Kingdom of Italy was proclaimed in 1861. But they still lacked two notable cities, Venice and Rome. Fortunately for the Italians, Bismarck of Prussia was leading German unification. In 1866, he declared war on Austria in order to become the greater German power. Italy joined in the war against Austria, but their disjointed army was soon defeated. Meanwhile, the Austrians had sought to keep the French neutral, so to make sure of this, they agreed to give them Venice, and this in turn was handed over to Italy. But the Italians would have to wait until 1870 to capture Rome. The Prussians, still trying to unify Germany, declared war on France, starting the Franco-Prussian War. Their speedy gains forced the French to withdraw their troops garrisoned in Rome, finally allowing the Italians to move in. Rome was then declared the capital of the Kingdom of Italy, but the new nation faced a lot of problems. Only a very small number of the population spoke the standardized language, the north and the south were economically and culturally very different, brigands in the south attacked northerners, and after land reforms, millions of people emigrated. On the global scene, Italy would go on to create its own empire, but along with Germany, they greatly upset the balance of power in Europe, and the alliances created as a result of this would help start World War I.
Okay, guys, with this I summarize today's class. But anyway, I'm gonna show you. I'm gonna go real fast in this PowerPoint. Okay, so as I said, today's chapter, and it's gonna take like 2 weeks to conclude this chapter. Why? Because next week we have test number 1, and we're gonna take 1 day to present the test and the other day to complete this chapter. Okay. So the term was nationalism is the devotion or unloyal loyalty to one country. It was powerful in 1800s. It fueled the independence movement in Latin America, and as this new nation emerged, the map of Europe once again changed. In the early 1800s, many people conquered by Napoleon resented French domination. They wanted to unite with others who shared their language, belief, and custom. Nationalism supported the idea of independent nation states. As they mentioned in the video, the countries were divided in nation states, and eventually they became one. When they unified, they became in one country. Self-government countries made up people with a common cultural background. Now here's the map of Italy. It was split in several states, and the one who began all this movement was the Kingdom of Sardinia, and at the end become one country that was Italy, with the capital was Rome. Nationalism grew more and more in Italian, embraced the idea of unifying as one country. When Camillo di Cavour became Prime Minister of Sardinia, Cavour modernized Sardinia's army and fought against Australians from the north. Let me see the map. Australia, over here, Austria. Why? Because Austria, they tried to invade and conquer this area. So with the help of Mr. Cavour, they fought against the Austrian at the north. Other Italian states united with the Sardinia in 1860. That year, Giuseppe Garibaldi overthrew the governor of Sicilia. Let me see, where was Sicilia? I think Sicilia was in this area over here. Sicilia. And a few months later, Garibaldi and Cavour, the two of them, joined together in 1861. Italy became a united kingdom. It means Italy. And 10 years later, Rome became the capital of that country. Now the same thing happened with Germany. They were divided after Napoleon's, and the Congress of Vienna was divided in different states. The major one was this one, the Kingdom of Prussia. It was the major one, or was the biggest states. So the same thing, spirit of nationalism grew among German people. Prussia was the largest of Germany states. Austria was its closest rival, and in the 1860s, Prime Minister Otto von Bismarck, as you see in the video, began a plan to create a unified Germany under Prussia domination, build a strong army, and won wars against Denmark and Austria. The German Empire was proclaimed in January 1871. King Wilhelms of Prussia became emperor, ruling over all German states except Austria. Okie dokie, with these slides, we are halfway of this chapter, and then we'll finish this chapter next week, as I mentioned, guys. Okay, do you have any question? Remember to complete vocabulary, remember to complete assessment questions, and get ready for your test number 1 that is gonna be next Monday. Okay, then sorry, I'm gonna open during the recess time the forum in order for you to send all the information. Okay,
thank you, teacher.
Okay, guys, if you don't have any other questions, then see you next week. Have a nice week, guys.
Teacher, lo voy a habilitar en este recreo.
Yes, this one. Okay,
Ya,
bye-bye.
Ya
Bye-bye.